Welcome to Board Game Brawl. My name is Nick, and today we're taking a look at Krosmaster Arena. Now, this is a fairly new game to America. It just came off of Kickstarter from Japanime Games, originally from Ankama Studio, and it was actually been out in Europe for a couple of years, and there's also a PC game based off of it. It's a very cool little 2-player, possibly 4-player with teams miniature skirmish game. I can tell you right away that it has beautiful components, but that doesn't necessarily make a great game. Is it a good game? Well, let's take a look, and we'll come back and let you know what I think. So the first thing I should mention in Krosmaster Arena is that the rulebook has some really neat tutorial maps that you can use before you even start the main game. And I would recommend you go through a couple of them just to get a feel for the game, unless you're really experienced with tactical miniature games. Now, in Krosmaster Arena, assuming that we're doing the base game, each player, and there's 2-player games normally, are going to have 4 Krosmasters that they're going to take control of, which are the little miniature characters. The way you're going to get those is you can either choose them, or you can deal them out randomly, or you can do a draft with 8 different cards. And once you have the 4 Krosmasters that you're going to have, you're going to add up all of their initiatives, which is the little tiny lightning bolt up in the corner. Whoever has the higher total initiative with all of their characters is going to be the player who goes first. And each of their characters is also going to be put in order of their initiative. So when it's your turn, you're going to use each of those characters in order from highest initiative to lowest. Now you have several things that you can do on your turn. Each player has different amount of movement points and action points. For every movement point that you spend, you're going to be able to move 1 space called cells in the game. So each of my characters on this side has 3 movement points, so each of them can move 3 adjacent spaces. You cannot move diagonally. If you have action points, there's several different things that you can do with them depending on the type of action. So each character has spells, and there are little blue stars that will indicate how many action points you have to spend to utilize those abilities. So for instance, Anatomy gets to have 2 different spells that each cost 3 action points. She has a total of 6 action points. So she could use one of these spells twice or both of them, and that would be the end of her action points for the turn. The other important stat on the character card is their health points. If they ever take an amount of damage equal to or exceeding this total, then that character is knocked out of the game. Now, the main point of the game in the base game is to be the only player with these GG tokens, Gallon of Glory tokens. You do that by either stealing little coins off the board by using your action points and turning in 10 of them to take one of the Gallon of Glory tokens from your opponent, or by knocking out one of your opponent's characters. You see that every character has a level up in the top corner. In this case, Anatomy has 3. If my opponent was to knock this character away from me, knock it out, he would immediately gain 3 Gallon of Glory tokens, because that's how many levels this character has. Whoever is the first person to steal all of their opponent's Gallons of Glory tokens is the winner. You can also win by just knocking out every one of your opponent's characters. But your characters have a lot of special abilities that will help them and make sure that it's easier for you to win. And a lot of them have to do with these tokens here. You have little summons that you can use, like these are gobbles which you can summon, and on the other side of the picture of the token, they have their little abilities, like they have their own movement, their own health points, their own action points, and the special abilities that they can use. And there's all kinds of different ones. There's bombs that you can lay, and little dolls that can explode, which are really cool. And there are also spaces on the board called demon spaces where you can buy improvements for your characters. And the demon side looks like this, and it'll have a little number in the center that'll say how many coins you have to spend on a demon space to buy one of those. And they do different things. So for instance, this is an example of a buff token. This will give you a temporary stat boost until the start of your next turn. Whereas these tokens, which first off they're cheaper, these are the granite tokens, so they only cost 3. It has this background. This is a one-time use. When you buy this token, you use the ability and then it's discarded. So for instance, this lightning spell, you buy it and it'll immediately do 2 damage to a character within range 1 to 5. The best ones you can buy are these gold tokens, which cost 12, but they're equipment, which are really good. Well, they could be equipment. So for instance, the Treechnid set is a permanent bonus on one of your characters that gives +5 health and +2 action points, but it does give -1 move. But you have to kind of make a choice in the game whether or not you want to save your comma coins, the little coins that you have, to buy Gallons of Glory and get closer to winning the game, or buy these improvements to make it more likely you'll win in the long run. And there are all kinds of other little components with the game. These are the dice that you're going to be using for combat. They have different sides. If you roll, if you're rolling this for a critical hit and you roll a little explosion, you'll deal extra damage. You can roll to keep one of your opponents from moving away from you by getting a magnet. The shields will be used for defense. The boot will make it more likely that you're going to be able to get away from an opponent if he tries to lock you in. And the stone, this little stone, is like a wild card that you can make whatever you want. And you'll roll a certain amount of these dice during combat depending on your character and the ability. Now, you'll see out on the battlefield there's different types of terrain that are placed, these little cardboard pieces. So, trees and bushes are impassable, meaning your characters cannot move through them. And in fact, characters themselves are impassable. You cannot walk through your character, even an ally. But there are different terrains do different things. So for instance, a bush is impassable, but you can still fire spells through it. A tree, however, is impassable and you cannot fire spells through it. The boxes can be moved on and do not block your line of sight. And in fact, your characters can stand on them and increase the range of their spells. There are other parts of the terrain, for instance the demon stones, which will let you buy the demon tiles, and coins are laid out in the beginning that your characters can pick up with their action points. But usually what you're going to want to try to do, in addition to taking advantage of the terrain, is moving next to your opponents in order to get into range to attack them. If they have melee attacks, you need to be right next to them. However, if you have ranged spells, you can be a certain number of spaces away, which is indicated on the spell card. So let's talk about the components first, because you have to talk about the components in a game like this. They're beautiful. It's absolutely the best part about the game. Really nice miniatures, really nice pieces. I mean, the cardboard pieces, they're sturdy for what they are. They're probably going to get a lot of wear and tear from having to put the little crates together and the little trees together. But for what they are, they're really good. Nice dice, nice tokens. Really can't complain about any of that. It all looks great, especially when you have it all set up. Walking by a table and seeing all the little miniatures out with all the tokens just looks awesome. The rulebook I also like a lot, and I have a lot of complaints about rulebooks for games, especially Kickstarter games, but they did a good job with this. They did a good job formatting it, and they have a nice section of tutorials in the beginning with actually like these little maps, the little mini maps that you'll put your guys on just to learn all the basics of the game step by step. But if you're not a noob to tactical miniature games, you can go straight to the base rules in the back, and it's all laid out pretty nice, little cheat sheet on the back, and I like that a lot. Now as for the game itself, I like it. I like it a lot. There's nothing special about it. There's a lot of games that do this, like I'm thinking of Tannhauser and other tactical miniatures games that aren't too complicated, like a few steps below an actual war game. But for what it does it well. And it's definitely a game that you could introduce to newbies to the genre or to kids, and they'll enjoy it a lot, especially because of the components. All the neat little special abilities for the characters, and the different ways that you can win the game, and also even the ability to play with teams is really great. I will say that one of the problems with the game is the fact that if you're just using the characters from the base game, you're going to get bored quickly, because there's only 8 of them, there's only so many special abilities that they have, and well, that's kind of why they made this game to have multiple expansions, to incentivize you to buy them. And if you were part of the Kickstarter and you got the expansions right off the bat, well, good for you. But if not, expect to be spending more money in order to increase the longevity of the game. And really, at the end of it all, it's not a very complex game. People who are used to heavy strategic games probably aren't going to want to take a look at this for too long. But if you're into casual games, if you're into the theme, the little chibi anime characters, I think you'll really like this game. I think it's a good buy if you just want something fun and light, but with some strategy. So I do recommend it. And this has been Board Game Brawl, reminding you to game every day and every